Phil Turner is an award-winning documentary producer and director. He's helped to create hundreds of hours of British-made and internationally sold content for the BBC, ITV, Channel 4, Sky, Netflix, and HBO. Some of the most popular series he's worked on include Benefit Street, Famous, Rich and Homeless, Make Bradford British, but he's most famous for being the director on Channel 4's SAS Who Dares Wins, where he's directed 9 seasons, including season 7, available to stream now. In short, Phil loves following great stories while running around the cities, mountains, deserts, rivers, and sometimes into the seas of the world. Phil, welcome to Zebra Spotlight.
Yes, Ati, thank you very much for having me. Very much looking forward to it. It's good to speak to you, meet you.
Now, I feel incredibly privileged because this is a Sunday night. I don't know where you've traveled from, but I know you're in a hotel room somewhere.
Yeah.
What's going on?
Well, I've just arrived in Terminal 5 at Heathrow Airport. I've just got back from Larnaca, where I've been for a couple of weeks. I'm actually working with Apple TV at the moment, so we're flying around the world making a documentary series about surfing called Make or Break, and it's wonderful. It's great. We get to travel all over the world, and we go to the best beaches in the world and the best waves and the best breaks with the best surfers. So it's kind of fun. But it's hectic. It's really hectic. It's non-stop.
Now, that's quite interesting. Yeah. When you say documentary about surfing, I was talking about like a Red Bull type thing?
No, there's a league, a World Surf League, and we're following the World Surf League as it tours around the world to various destinations. So we start in Hawaii in January, and we moved. Oh, now is a tough question. Where did we go to after Hawaii? We go all over. We've been to Australia. We're going to go to Indonesia tomorrow. J-Bay, South Africa. We've got numerous destinations. Tahiti, lots in Los Angeles, and all over the place. Yeah, it's crazy.
Exotic beaches around the world.
Yeah, it really is. It's really it's. I think they label it the Dream Tour. So we're basically. What I'm documenting and what we're documenting as a team is the world's best surfers on the world's best beaches and the world's best breaks, basically, and it's what I'm really interested in, what we're really interested in capturing is what goes on before and after the waves, and what is sort of behind the red curtain of these big sporting events. So Box to Box Films, who I'm working with, make this incredibly successful series called Drive to Survive, and we've started it with the World Surf League, in a similar sort of vein, following these characters, these elite athletes around the world, finding out what makes them tick, what makes a great sports person.
Wow! Now you just mentioned one of the most popular series streaming on Netflix. That's Drive to Survive. If not even into Formula One, this gets you into Formula One. It is one of the most fantastically, videographed, edited series on Netflix, hands down. I mean, it's won. I mean, it done amazing things with the BAFTAs. It's a tremendous series. So if you guys are doing the surfing version of that, this is just going to be incredible.
It's going to be incredible. It is incredible. So our first series launched, I think it was at the end of last month, at the end of April, launched on Apple TV, and it is. I don't know. I'm always going to big up my own productions, but I've watched it again. I watched it again on the plane on the way over to the UK just now, and it's really interesting. And I'm not. You can tell by my accent. I'm a Yorkshire lad. I'm from Halifax, which is sort of landlocked. We don't do much surfing, but it's about the stories that goes on behind the scenes, and the characters that are part of the World Surf League or part of F1. It's that sort of stuff. We're doing one for tennis as well. So I've worked on a couple of episodes for the tennis one as well this year. So we're covering our bases with these sports documentaries. They've proved very popular,
And what an incredible year ahead. So we'll come on to talk about some of the other projects that you've got coming up. So let's go back a bit and let's talk about your background and how you entered into a career in TV production.
Yeah, well, I mean, I've always it's an interesting question, is it? See, I've always been interested in video production, actually film production, because But the first sort of camera that I got hold of was, you know, a Super 8mm that my granddad had owned, and then my dad owned, and then I got my hands on, and it sort of went from there. As a kid, I got massively into it. I think I remember one of my dad's friends got a portable camcorder back in the 80s, and that was like you had a separate bag that carried the video cassette, you had the camera, and then you had this big bag and battery pack and all that sort of stuff. But I was always mad keen whenever those sort of toys came out and I saw them. I was always mad keen on getting to know them and how and what we could do with them, you know. So I suppose ever since a kid I wanted to do this sort of thing, but I didn't know that you could do it as a job, to be honest. I never knew that I'd be able to do it as a job, and it took a long time actually to figure out. It was actually a girl. I met a girl on a bus in where was I, in Perth in Western Australia when I was 17, and she was studying at the Australian School of Film, Television and Radio, and she said I should do a short course in documentary production. So that's what I did. I did a week's course in documentary production in Melbourne, and that got me hooked. And from that moment, I was like, I wanted to do anything to get into that industry. And it was really tough. It was really tough getting into it, but it's been a wonderful career so far. I've been in it. I think I've been in 20 years. I've been doing it. So since leaving college, you know, since leaving film school in Bournemouth. So yeah, it's been mental. It's been brilliant.
Now, a young lad from Halifax, how do you end up in Melbourne at the age of 17?
Oh, it was Perth actually. I went to Perth. Mm-hmm. It's a long story. It's a long story, but I ended up in a place called Kwinana, which is not somewhere you'd ordinarily go to. I don't think. I ended up in a chemical factory, working in a chemical factory and I met a guy in a pub there, and he worked in the chemical factory called Index Chemicals. And so the reason why I ended up in Perth. How did I end up in Perth? It was the furthest city that I could get to from Halifax. I think I just really needed to get out of Halifax.
Wow.
And I got
on the other side of the earth.
Yeah, literally the other side of the planet. And I got a one-way ticket for £175.
Wow.
And that was it. That sort of I took a video camera with me. I think I nicked my dad's little camcorder, little Sony camcorder, and just went off on my travels. Yeah, it was brilliant. Best thing I ever did.
Now, your story is quite similar to a lot of cinematographers. So, you know, you're there wielding your video camera. Yeah. How then did that transpire into actually becoming, having more of a director role rather than the cinematography?
Well, yeah, okay, that's a good question. And it was probably more so by chance. At film school, I'd studied producing. So I'd always had this sort of, when you go to film school, it's kind of particular. Everybody wants to be a director. Everybody wants to see a cinematographer. But to get the director place or the cinematographer place at film school can be quite difficult. So I just it was easier to get a producer place. So I said, I want to be a producer. So that sort of got me in that got me in that first door. I think the key is always just to say, I could do that. And then when you're in that role, then figure out what you can actually do when you're in it. Do you know what I mean? So I started in film schools in a producer role. I just wanted to make stuff. I just wanted to make good stories that made people laugh, cry, and told good, interesting stories, and had a lot of value to what I see in the world. You know, I think that was most important to what I wanted to do. So once I get in there and I say I'm a producer and blah blah blah, it doesn't really matter what you've done at college. When you get out into the real world and you go for work experience, you end up making cups of tea for people, and that's really what you're going to be for the next year or 2 years or whatever it is, till you can convince somebody to let you do more interesting and more creative things, you know. And you just constantly, yeah, when you're early in your career or early in my career, I'm constantly looking for a more creative role, you know. And so I went in as a producer and then became a runner, and then but carried on into production actually. And I started off in the production. I started off working with Blast Films in North London, and I was in the production department. So I was more office based. I went on a couple of location jobs to Malta and one more exotically in Sheffield. And then and I was in that role as in the office, and I worked for a wonderful woman called Abby Back, and she really taught me a lot on the industry and how and what's needed. You know, it is more about being available and willing to do whatever's asked of you, and to the very best of your ability more, and that provides you then with opportunity later on for doing stuff that you really want to do, you know, whether that be camera work or whatever. Because so from there I went and met a wonderful guy called Nick O'Dwyer down in Oxford. He ran a company called Landmark Films, and he gave me my first big break, proper break. I'd been working as a runner, as a production assistant, and I was taking the camera home every night, and I got to learn how to use the camera. I just had a little daughter, little Leah, she'd just been born, so I practiced filming with her on these big broadcast cameras. At the time, they were big DSR 570s it was. And he said to me after a year of working for him, I've got a job for you. If you want to go up to North Yorkshire and spend a year in a place called Botton, I want to make this documentary film that we've got beside here. It's called The Strangest Village in Britain, and it was based in Botton in North Yorkshire, and that turned out to be really successful. And he gave me my first proper camera role on that. So I was the camera person, and from that moment, that was quite successful actually. It did all right. I got a Broadcast Young Talent of the Year award, and or nomination. I didn't get the award. It was a nomination, but still it put me on the map, if you like, as a young creative within the television world, you know. And from there, I met a guy called Richard McKerrow at Love Productions, and he wanted me to film stuff for him. But he said, "Have you ever thought about directing? Do you ever ask questions?" Because we was talking in an interview like this, and he said, "I think you'd be great just talking to people. You're brilliant at just, you know, asking questions and finding out about what's going on. And do you ever fancy doing that?" I was like, 100%. That's what I do. You know, this is exactly what I want to do. And so he gave me the opportunity then to do that for him. And I went and I worked with Love Productions for years, doing all those documentaries that you mentioned there, Famous Rich and Homeless, Benefit Street, all those sort of things. Yeah, it was wonderful. Wow. Bake Off, first series of Bake Off. So all that, yeah, it was great.
Wow. I remember, I think back in my day when I got hold of a VHS camcorder, I used to get my mates and we used to just choreograph kung fu films.
Yeah, right. That's it. Yeah, you know what we used to do.
That's what I wanted to do.
Well, you know what we did. We used to look like everybody. I know this is ridiculous, probably so sad, but we used Neighbours. Obviously, it was quite popular at the time. Yeah. And we used to find Neighbours hilarious. So we'd sort of this is really quite embarrassing, but we'd film reenactments of what we'd seen in Neighbours, but like massively over the top. And so I remember Jim Robinson dying, and we refilmed Jim Robinson dying and having this heart attack and blah blah blah. It was pretty weird, but kind of funny at the same time. You know, it's just messing about as kids. You know, we did Arachnophobia. That was it. Another one. We should have done some kung fu films. That would have been way cooler.
Now, the director's role. So, can I ask, who were your earliest influences in terms of, you know, clearly the director's role was your natural inclination, that's what you wanted to end up doing. So, did you have any huge influences sort of earlier on?
I love films. I love documentary. I love social realism films. I love kitchen sink dramas from, you know, back in the day when my dad's, when I had like this sporting life, and I liked Ken Loach as a director. I held him in really high regard. But I loved like Oliver Stone as well. I thought he could tell a story really interestingly. You know, the way he blended all these different styles, especially stuff like Natural Born Killers, but then he'd go from that to like JFK, so he'd like love his historical dramas as well, you know. So some huge inspirations from, and a massive wide variety of sort of films, you know. I was never just keen on one particular genre of film. Studying film as well at film school, it makes you sort of look at all sorts of different styles and genres, and that makes you. I think that's got to like enrich your vocabulary, film vocabulary, hasn't it? Because you do, even though it's documentary that I make now, I still try and put those bits and pieces in my films as well, even though it's documentary, it's not particularly drama, you know. I still try and think about different styles that we can approach it with, you know. So it's, you know, it's kind of interesting that way, I suppose. But Oliver's, as a kid growing up, Oliver Stone was my biggest sort of influence for sure. I think is Wall Street and stuff. Some of the, and Platoon, some of those films that he made there were amazing. And it really made you think, you know. You were like, whoa, what's going on in the world? There's this image of the world that I see, and then Oliver Stone's showing it in a sort of like Platoon, and you know, it was incredible. It really made you think. Social conscious films as well. Ken Loach, like I mentioned him, he was a big influence, you know. And so much so, like Benefit Street was like a direct relation to Ken Loach. Didn't like Benefit Street either. It's heartbreaking to read that. I think I read in a review somewhere that Ken Loach thought it was shit or something. I don't know. He didn't like it, and I was really disappointed with it because I thought, how can a guy who spent all his life making drama, which is not like even documentary, but making dramas about people who were on the welfare system or on the breadline or whatever, making dramas about it, which is not even real, like not like something that's real. Like how is he offended by? A lot of people got offended by Benefit Street, fucking up, but that's what it is. Sorry, but it was what it was at the time, and I thoroughly enjoyed making it. But yeah, I was really upset with Ken Loach's critique of it, because I was really into like Raining Stones. Have you seen that, Raining Stones?
I've not, no.
Oh mate, there's some good films. Ken Loach's early, like some of Ken Loach's 80s films are really, really good. So yeah, I was devastated when I read that he didn't think it was. I can't remember what he said. I'd ignore it, but yeah, it's dead upsetting.
Wow, gosh. So yeah, if he ever listens to this, then you know, we've got to make amends.
Oh well.
Would you say, are you a fan of Sean Meadows' films?
Oh, of course. I love Sean Meadows. Yeah. He's brilliant. Because again, so this is what I was really into for a long time, is state of the nation type films, and who we are and where we come from type pieces, and that's what I'm all about. And Shane Meadows is brilliant at it. He's awesome because he uses amazing humor, and that sort of conveys incredible stories, and they're really terrifying stories, sad stories, but ultimately really like community-based stories as well. So I love that, because I'm from a very strong community background, you know. So yeah, I recognize that resonated with me for sure.
And so people know what cinematographers do. People sort of guess what people do in post-production in the audio department. You know, art, you know, people producing sets and things like that. What is your, if you were to describe a typical day on set in your job, from morning till, you know, I don't know if you sleep a decent hours or whatever, but just tell me about your day-to-day job.
Oh no, there's no like day-to-day, there's no day-to-day job, and currently there's no sort of set hours either, because with all the different time zones that we're flying in and out of, sleep patterns are completely sort of out the window, really. But I think that's what's really fun about my role. And I've got to tell you, so my role within some of these productions is as a director, as part of a team, a big team, usually quite a big team. On SAS, it's a huge team. On surfing, it's a smaller team, but maybe four other directors usually shooting 2 or 3 other shooting directors. So and then there's other documentaries where there's just me as a director and with a cinematographer separate, or I do the cinematography and I do the director. It's kind of every job is different, and it's all down to what the subject is and what what we're wanting to get out of a particular scene, I suppose. And that's where your question is going. What's your day to day like? It's always different, but we're usually up very early in the morning. I get a start of a day, a couple of GVs. It's basically every day is different, so you've got to set up each and every day as a potentially sequence of events. So you set it up as a mini film within each day. So I tend to get up early and tend to film
I was saying,
everything.
do you storyboard your day?
I don't. You couldn't storyboard it because it's always different as well, and that's what's great about it, because you've got to react on the fly. You know, you obviously when I'm going to bed on a night, I've got a good idea of what I want to get out of the next day and what I've got out of this particular day. Maybe next week I know I've got a big interview coming up, so I want to think about how we might want to shoot that and what we'll need to get that. But you know, generally, waking up on a day is going to be new and fresh, and we've got to start from scratch each day, because in documentary, anything and everything can happen, because it's a very organic world, and not everything goes to plan. In fact, what works really well is when nothing really goes to plan, and you get something really new that you never thought you would get. Obviously, you want things you need to get things, and you've got a tick sheet that you need to, you want to get. I want to nail that, and I want to nail this. But yeah, no, everything's different. Every day is different. But if we get up every morning and we start our day with a sunrise shot, a nice GV sunrise shot, establishing shot of wherever it is that we're going into film, some actuality of the people and the places that we're going into, and then a couple of chats and interviews around that event or wherever it is we are, then that's kind of like your day to day. That's pretty much in a nutshell what I do. Film it and then pass it on to the DIT people who put it all on computers and put it in the machines, and then it gets logged and then edited, and then after a long period of time we get a finished product which we can watch. And so sometimes I get to sit in on the edits, sometimes I don't. It depends really what the schedules are for the shooting and where we've got, where I need to be to shoot different things. But yeah, every day is different.
And with that in mind, can you give us some examples of maybe some of the greatest challenges you've had to come across, or and then conversely to that, some of your greatest achievements?
Ooh. Well, challenges. Some of our greatest challenges are it can be just nailing down people that we're maybe maybe it's an interview that I'm desperately trying to get hold of. I just did this first season of Make or Break for Apple TV. The Gabriel Medina is a world champion surfer. He's incredibly talented and the world's best at surfing. And trying to pin him down for an interview was ridiculously difficult. Like I cannot even begin to describe how difficult it was to get to pin him down. We've filmed this amazing season with him. We've got all this wonderful footage of him winning the world championship, but also having some of the highs and the lowest lows of his entire career. But nailing down this interview, the final interview in California, was just the hardest thing in the world. And the pressure's on, because I can't go back to London and say to the editor, my execs in London, and say that I've not got the interview. I've not managed to. What do you mean you've not got the interview? What do you mean? You've been filming this guy for a year. Where's the interview now? And we sort of managed to get it. I think we were in Los Angeles, and we flew out to Hawaii to film somebody else, and then we were on the flight from Hawaii. We were going to go back to London, and then it was just as we were about to fly back, we got the message to say, yeah, come on, let's do that. We can do the interview now. So we flew back to California then to get the interview. And it's so like, are we going to do, you know, we've got to, you know, you've got to get it. And it's so, it can be ridiculously stressful. But it's sometimes things that are not necessarily in your control, you know. But yeah, when it comes off and you get your interview and it turned out to be a really fucking good interview as well. It was very satisfying.
Probably one of your greatest achievements then.
It doesn't sound like much. Getting an interview doesn't sound like that. But when I'm saying it now, it sounds well done. You got an interview, brilliant. But at the time, it didn't feel like we were going to get it, and that was really, really disheartening for me, because I know what a good story needs, and a good story really needs a really good backbone, and that is a really good chat with somebody, and it's the person that you've been filming with all year, because you can, you know, when I'm filming with him, I chat to him and we'll get all that, but you really want to have a sit down like this and really get into somebody's sort of psyche and really want to know what it takes to be a world champion. Like, what is it like, and what's it like being like for you this particular year? And it can be incredibly moving, you know. It can be incredibly thought-provoking. It can be incredibly funny, and it can be amazing. So to go home without that would have felt like I've massively failed. Like I've failed my job, even though I've got some lovely stuff and it looks great. But without some of those key bits of sync, I would have felt a failure. And I was feeling like a failure. I was feeling like a massive failure at the end of the year, and I've not got it. But maybe that's how the universe wanted it to be for me at that time, you know. That's how, and it made it so much better. It really did. It made yeah.
Wow, gosh, so, I can feel it. I can feel that. Now, you've filmed all over the world in such a variety of projects. And you know, when I was reading about your bio, you mentioned, you know, being in one of the most heartbreaking orphanages in Johannesburg, and then going to the MGM Grand in Las Vegas on fight night, and you've flown over Manchester and Liverpool with the emergency services, you know, seeing gunshot wounds, sword fights, and all sorts of, you know, wonderful, crazy stuff. That must be intensely emotional, and so much reflection that, you know, that goes on afterwards, almost post-traumatic in some senses. So how do you deal with all of that day to day?
Well, I've not particularly dealt with all that so well in the past, actually. It's a really good question. I think going back to the orphanages, and I was in Cape Town in South Africa, and seeing the orphanages there. I was working on a BBC documentary, and going to Johannesburg and seeing it was in this Central Methodist Church down in downtown Johannesburg. Some really appalling memories of those places, where, you know, young children have been caught up in all sorts of horrors. And it really does affect you. Like, you could hear it in my voice now thinking about it. There's a couple of series that I did for Comic Relief, and yeah, they were really hard hitting, really thought provoking, and really upsetting. And I remember, you know, going off to my hotel room one night, and I'm lucky, like I could go off to a hotel room and sort of dwell on it. But, you know, these kids and these young people who live in these places have to go through it on a daily basis, and you feel a tremendous amount of guilt, and there's not much you really can do other than sort of tell the stories. But then you just have this overwhelming sense of guilt that, like, what are you even doing there, and yeah, it's pretty horrendous. Going on then to film things like Ambulance in Manchester or Liverpool, and you arrive in an estate in Liverpool, and there's been a gunfight, and, you know, he's got two brothers, one shot in the head, one shot in the chest, and it's just insane. And you see things that I don't think, you know, your regular jobs you wouldn't get access to, you know. I remember turning up into Liverpool hospital at 3 a.m. and I was in the back of the ambulance with this young kid who'd been shot, this young man who'd been shot. And he was fine with me filming, you know. He said, "Yeah, no, it's absolutely fine. Just blur my face out and stuff. But you're all good to film me." He was fully compass mentis. He'd been shot here, and the ambulance doors flung open, and then there's like 5 armed police officers pointing their automatic rifles right into the ambulance. I was like, "Oh, okay, yeah." Wasn't expecting that, you know. So you get to see some crazy stuff. And it's I did a documentary actually called My Last Summer for Channel 4, and this is the one that hit me probably the hardest. And we filmed 5 people dying of terminal illness. We got given a terminal illness, and it was my job to follow them through their final months of life. And it was really tough because I got to know them really well. I got to know each of the guys really, really well. And when you spend every day of your life and every day of every last days of their lives, you get to share some pretty incredible things with you. You know, you become a real confidant and a lot of them said that when they get given a terminal illness, their friends and the family sort of disappear a little bit, and it becomes a very lonely world. So as their videographer, as their documentary maker, as their documentary guy, they sort of offload everything that they're thinking onto you, and you become their confidant, and you become their ears. You know, you're the person that they tell everything to, the deepest, darkest, sometimes funny, sometimes sad, and it's quite a weight to bear really after a time, and it can really affect you. And I think you've got to really, it took me a long time to figure out good ways of dealing with it, but yeah, talking to psychiatrists and people within the industry about what you're going through and what your contributors are going through, as you've got to do that, because otherwise you can end up in a real mess, you know. And then I had made a conscious switch then in my career to sort of move out of those fields, because it can get too heavy for you, you know. It's really interesting at first, and you kind of really want to know this dark side to the world, you know, what life is like in drug land, or in, you know, cartel land, or in, you know, whatever land it is, or even if it's just cancer or anything like that, or orphan, you know, what are South African orphanages, or, you know, all these places. They're quite interesting to talk about, but you can't. I can't spend the rest of my life doing those subjects because they're just it's too much really. So you kind of got to deviate and find new paths, which I think is how you then end up in the MGM Grand in Las Vegas filming Tyson Fury and all that, you know, which is kind of very different.
Yeah. You
know? But it's equally as interesting, you know. And I don't think I'd be able to go. I wouldn't. I'm really glad that I went into those worlds early in my career, because I don't think I could do it. I don't know if I could do those sort of subjects now, particularly. Maybe in 5-10 years I maybe could, but right now it's nice to do something a little bit different, I think, you know.
I mean, I think it's like going to the front line of documentary making, of the harsh realities of life. And you know, someone has to tell the story, because these stories are important to share.
100%.
But I guess it's knowing within yourself your own limitations and how it's affecting yourself. Overall, in your opinion, how supportive is your industry in recognizing, you know, mental health issues and supporting people within the industry to say, hang on, you're going out then and providing us amazing stories, but, you know, who's looking after you?
Yeah, no, I think that's the relatively new thing, to be honest. I mean, we for sure, when I worked on Ambulance for BBC One, they were amazing. They had 24-hour counselling whenever you needed it, because you know, with a show like that, with a show like Ambulance, and with a particular the particular world, that avenue that I was dealing with, which is the HEMS, the helicopter stuff, going into the worst incidents in the worst part of the area, that you're just constantly dealing with really harrowing subjects. You know, every time you take off, it's a dying person. It's the last throw of the dice. So it's pretty full on. But prior to that, not much really was done for mental health. But I think that's true of any industry. I think, you know, where we've come in the past 5 years is like, thank God, because before I worked in ambulance, I don't think I'd really. No, that's not true. That's not true. I have had the opportunity to speak to counsellors, but maybe that our attitude of speaking to counsellors and speaking to psychiatrists and psychologists, rather, with regarding work and what you're seeing and doing at work, is being more accepted. You know, because if it was available, I don't think I'd ever really accessed it. I don't think it was available at times, and then I think it slowly got introduced. For sure, when I was doing my last summer for Channel 4, I had access to psychologists and counsellors for sure at that point. But yeah, I'd not got to that stage where I'd needed to, I don't think, before. It's really interesting, isn't it? You're right. You as a documentary director, you maybe not aware of fully of what what you're filming a lot of the time. You know, you're aware of it, but you're kind of protected by this viewing screen. You know, but it's actually, you know, it's happening right in front of you, and so it can be quite difficult. I think people like Tyson Fury, who opened up about his own mental health after winning the world heavyweight championship, really made it easier for everybody. That's why I wanted to work with him so much, I think, because he championed people talking about mental health so well, and he did it in such a way. If this guy, who's a 20-stone heavyweight champion of the world, can open up and talk about his mental health, then I'm surely I can do that as well. And that means that I can then do it in the films that I'm making as well. And you can see that in SAS, you know.
I'm glad that you just mentioned that, because it lends straight into that show as well.
That show is amazing for showing people people's mental health, but not only showing their mental health, but showing how to overcome poor episodes in our mental health, you know. And that's something that I think I'm really proud of with SAS, and Sophie and everyone at Minnow have done such an amazing job with that for sure.
And talking about SAS, Who Does Wins, it's very cleverly introduced as the show goes on. You know, you've got the bravado of the the main squad, and you've got the recruits, and there's the whole physical element, and and just get on with it. But then, as the show goes on, you have the tender moments where people reveal what the issues are, why they're there in the first place, and often towards the end, it's building characters and finding out much more about these people in front of you, what they've been through. I think that's probably the most arduous task to actually get through in the first place, isn't it, rather than just the physical element?
I think all of us somewhere in our core have got a story to tell, haven't we? I think we've all got something in us that we draw on that will either drive us down or can push us up, and it's just I think the bravery is in the revealing of it, and who we talk to about it, and then almost giving it up and letting other people say, no, there's two ways that this thing can go. There's two ways that this thing can go. And if you give it up to somebody else, sometimes you can overcome it in a I don't know. SAS is brilliant at how it unlocks people's innermost secrets, and then can transform a person into a superhuman. Because I genuinely think we've all got that in us. I think we've all got something in us that's holding us back in some way. And the guys on SAS, and not just the guys, and guys, girls, men, women, everybody on that show, they just work as a team to draw out those stories. And yeah, it's pretty incredible. I don't think it's recognized enough. But everyone says, oh, it's another backstory of this, that, and then there is some criticism about that. I'll take it for a second, but actually I think it takes a hell of a lot of bravery to talk about that sort of stuff, and then to go through the process of that SAS in itself, which is incredibly physically difficult, is great. I do love it. That's what keeps me going back year after year to help out on, to work on, for sure.
I think you're absolutely spot on. And when they get called in for the interview with the DSs, and then suddenly something's revealed, and you think, oh shit, you've just come out with that, and you still got to get up in the morning and do the next day. And I didn't know you were carrying that. Sometimes it is. It's a shock.
It is, yeah. And I remember character Mark from the Chile episode, and his story and how stoic he was about it during the whole show, and he didn't reveal anything. He didn't tell anybody anything about anything that had happened to him, and he explained it in one of those classic DS moments, and it was a true revelation. It was a true revelation. He still doesn't surprise me, but he still affects me on a daily basis. Seeing his Instagram stories, seeing his, because all these people who have been on SAS, they all have an inspiring story, and they prove to others that no matter what's happened in our lives, no matter how extreme, and we've all been through extreme times, no matter how extreme, you can come through it if you work hard for it. You can do it.
I want to know about some of the secrets on set, because I've seen some of your Instagram reels and your stories, and there are times where you're having such a laugh on set with the crew, and I'm thinking, how do you differentiate what's going on with the candidates to what's going on behind the scenes? And what if a funny thing happens with the recruits, and you all sort of have a laugh and say, no, all right, we've got to be serious now. And how does it work?
No, that's so that stuff on my Instagram, that's it's very separate. Where as soon as the recruits as soon as the recruits arrive on set, that's it. It's game over. There's no more playing. We're in a complete bubble. In fact, we as directors and camera people take a step back, and they're in the special forces bubble from that moment. We have very little interaction with them. In fact, so much so that there's times when you have a little, I'm an embedded director, so I'm in the cars, I'm in there, I'm doing all the tasks with them and stuff like that. But we don't really talk to them. It's the only series that I work on really where we don't ask questions in the moment, because there's only one time where I've asked a question, and it was ever in the program, and that was with was it with Harvey in Morocco, and he could blatantly see that he was a beasting going on over there, and he was miles away, and he was sort of like almost running away from where he needed to be. And I said, "Aren't you meant to be over there?" And he looked around and he went, "Where? I can't see anybody." And he carried on. So that was the only time a question's ever been used in it. So no, in SAS, it's a very clear bubbles, and that's created by the DS. So only the DS have any of that interaction. But yeah, the stuff that we're messed about that we have before, and rehearsals. We have a week's recce's and rehearsals, so we go around all the locations and see what we're going to film in here. We're going to do it this way. We're going to do it that way, and we plan out exactly how we're going to achieve whatever it is we want to achieve from each of the tasks. So that's where we have a laugh and a joke and figure out what's what. And it's good then because that gives the DS an opportunity to realize how the recruits might react to the tasks and So yeah, that's how that works. But it is a good laugh. It's really fun.
And I guess these guys are, and I guess these guys, you know, that no one needs to tell them how to do their job. They just probably just get straight in the zone that if it's time to be DS, there's no acting course here. It's just switched on and that's it.
They're the real deal, right? Yeah, I mean, look at Billy's just, I mean, all of them. You can't really single any of them out, but we've all absolutely years and years worth of experience of working in the special forces, you know, tier 1 special forces, and I am astounded daily by their knowledge and their sort of like just how they go around about their lives is really interesting. And you know, just being around tier 1 special forces operatives on a daily basis is really eye-opening. It's really mad. It's really mad. It's funny and it's also a little bit scary at times. I've got to admit.
I was reading. I think. I mean, let's talk about the on set. Obviously, the recruits you can see where, you know, in the communal barracks as well. But where do you guys hang out? Where do you hide?
So this is the easy bit. So this is the easy bit for us. What's really fortunate for us, the DS and the recruits all stay in barracks on camp, but all the rest of us, all our shooting team, production team, and stuff are then away in like a separate place in a hotel. So I am very fortunate in the fact that I get to sleep in a really comfy bed and eat a really nice tea, and you know, and have a really nice shower or a bath if I want in the morning. And then I can come to work kind of refreshed. I won't say 100% refreshed because it's still exhausting, and you know, we're still often getting in late and then up at 4 a.m. and going off to work and running up mountains and all that. So I'm not saying it's easy, but it's certainly a lot easier than what the recruits and DS have, because they live it, they proper live it. And the recruits always say like, "Oh, you've done it like us." We haven't, because they're on like calorie deficit meal. You know, they're on eating like rice and mushrooms, or if you're lucky, you know, bit of porridge in the morning. It's so tough.
It is incredibly tough. It's so
tough. I remember Foxy saying it's the toughest show. It's the toughest show on television, and I genuinely believe it. There's no. Everyone always asks, is it for real? Is it faked? And all that sort of stuff. And it's 100% real. 100%.
Yeah. No, I think if you looked at that and thought, you can just tell them their faces. Are there any particularly memorable moments? Either funny incidents or just harrowing incidents on.
Well, I remember do you remember? I don't know if you remember AJ. I think was it our first year we'd got celebs in to do it, and we were in Chile. Oh my God, AJ collapsed at the top of the mountain. That was petrifying. That was really petrifying because, you know, it was just anyone. I remember she just went and her eyes rolled back, and it was horrible. I think, you know, and it's not, you know, if it had been anyone, you'd have been like, oh shit, what do we do here? Like, this is bad. Let's medic, come on. But that was the first time I'd seen anyone really go down, you know, properly, and that was petrifying. But she was amazing. AJ absolutely smashed it that year. And you know, she got up and I think they put her on the back of a donkey or something. I can't remember really, but that was pretty harrowing. There's been some really like scary times happen, and but a lot of funny stuff like that. Billy cracks me up. Billy cracks me up because he's just mental. Like, if you ever need a bit of motivation, because I'm 44 now, I find it quite difficult. But if I ever need a bit of motivation, I look to the back of his Billy's always up the back, and he looks to me like an action, you know, like an action man model. Like, it looks kind of like that. And he's running, he's got his knees running right up to his chest, going, and that it just cracks me up. He's hilarious. But he always gives me a bit of like motivation and gets me going. So it's not just the recruits that needs need these, you know, you need it as crew sometimes as well, and as directors, to keep up with these guys, because they're a real deal, you know. So yeah, it's always a good laugh. And I don't know what it is. I think it's that what everybody seems to really enjoy about it, who makes it, is that sort of I mean, I've not got any military experience, and otherwise I would have probably enjoyed it as a kid. I'd have gone into the army, or it'd be good. But I never did any of that stuff. But it does give you that sense of what is it, camaraderie, something that you don't really find in a lot of other jobs, you know, because you go through pretty like torturous tasks, and there's a lot of mental arithmetic going on, like how are we going to suspend Sabs, because Sabs has got to film this way, looking up off the bridge there, and she's got to be 30. Like, how do we do that? How do we fix her in and make sure it's all safe? And how do the ropes team know? There's a lot of components going into all this, and health and safety obviously has got to be spot on. Otherwise, you have some terrible. And that's one thing we've never had any fatalities. We've never had any really bad accidents. Thank God. Touch wood. So, and that's because we've got such a good set of really keen and knowledgeable specialists, you know, and we've each got each other's backs, and we're always looking out for each other. So that sort of sense of camaraderie and is really hard to find, I think, in this modern society sometimes, because it's not often that you're getting a camera person or a director to be suspended from a bridge, you know, from up there, or down a cliff valley, or, you know, in the freezing cold, or in the desert heat, or, you know, walk along a ginormous dam. You know, it's not every day that you're in those sort of environments. So it takes real dedication and teamwork to figure out how to do it, and how to do it safely. And so when it's accomplished, and it's not a feeling of we got away with it, we completed it, we smashed it, and we did it really well, you know, and that's a huge satisfaction. It gives you amazing buzz.
Now, coming on to the health and safety aspect, my assumption always was, if something, you know, God forbid, disastrously went wrong, you've got like an airlift chopper on standby, or, you know, the government's best paramedics on site. Is that the case, or is it a sort of?
Yeah, we've got incredible doctors and paramedics and people like that immediately available on set. We've also got medivac and helicopters and satellite phones because we are obviously in quite remote places as well at times. But we've got all that stuff all laid out and fully procedured, and we know exactly what to do in whatever circumstance it is. And if any of the health and safety team have any issues with anything at any time, there's a red flag, the whole thing stops. And we've got, you know, really solid procedures that we need to get ourselves out of some sticky situations, I suppose. But yeah, it's you know, health and safety, it sounds such like, oh, it's health and safety, but actually it can be quite fun as well, because if you deal with it in the right way, in a positive way, you can see what you can actually do, and actually what you can do is generally just sometimes it's more than what you expect you would be able to do, and it for sure is a lot better if nobody dies, for sure.
Let's keep it that way.
Yeah.
Now the interesting thing is, let's talk about the US contingency. So we've got Remy, Adeleke, and Rudy Reyes who've joined the show. I looked up Rudy Reyes, and to me, you know, he's like this Adonis character that suddenly turns up, you know, something from Sparta, and you know, I was just reading about him. The guy's 51.
Yeah, what a specimen!
I thought, what? Like, for real.
He puts Sylvester Stallone to shame. I think he's really good friends with Sylvester Stallone. He'll tell you, he's very keen to show you that he's good friends with Sylvester. He's got all these like great contacts, and Remy and Rudy have been an amazing addition. They've been like, don't get me wrong, I was devastated to see Ollie and Ant leave, and we've definitely lost something with them going for whatever reasons. I'm not going to get into that, but they were huge losses. And how do you fill those holes with people. I mean, and with Rudy, he's an immense character, and with Remy is another immense character, and they've got incredible experience in
It
their
was like watching a
fields.
Marvel movie, like just get
Yeah,
introduced
whoa.
and thought, oh shit, this is going to get really crazy in a minute. We've got the US.
You know what was really interesting? So he's got this US UK thing.
Yeah.
And so before we could even start filming anything, we were in these sort of bubbles in the desert, in the Jordanian desert. And you've got Foxy and Billy on the one side of camp, and we're in the inner circle. So there's me and the other shooting directors and some of the execs, and then you've got the DS and this is in our COVID like epicenter. So nobody else can get into our bubble, because this is the bubble to make sure the DS don't get ill and we can film this whole thing. But we'd never met really before. We'd never spent any significant time together. So you've got these two Americans and two British guys, and there was a lot of friction, I don't know. It wasn't apparent to start with, but it was definitely there. I felt there was friction between the two of them, and this is enough testosterone in these places anyway, because and look at them, So anyway, but it turned out amazingly. We were in isolation for like 10 days. I think it was the 8th day. And actually, this is a stroke of genius. And I'm going to fully take my hat off and say this was my idea. It was Tyson Fury's final fight with Deontay Wilder, and it was getting shown at like 5 a.m. So we got the laptop set off so we could all watch it. I think it was on our last day of isolation. That was it. So we all got in the open air. Crowded around the heavyweight championship of the world final, Deontay Wilder versus Tyson Fury, and it was like 5 a.m. in the morning. There was like 12 of us out there watching it together, and we just had a great time. We had a real laugh, and that was the end of isolation, and it was brilliant. We all sort of like, just brilliant, just a great team bonding exercise. It worked a treat.
The new vibe on the show. I mean, you can tell that obviously something happened, because there's a sort of a huge amount of respect, and that they appear to get on, but you can tell there's a huge amount of respect for each other's backgrounds, their experiences, and the new elements, particularly filmed in the desert. It just all sort of came together, and I thought, wow, this has gone to another level.
I think it's to be honest, it's something that Minnow have talked about for a while, and we'd wanted to bring in. Then it happens in real life. We are allies, so why not? And I think they knew that a lot of people might say, "Oh, this is not SAS," but actually, it's so interesting. How could you not? I mean, that is a real reflection of what happens in real life, and I think it's wonderful. I think they chose Remy and Rudy, and they're amazing characters. Like Remy is so strong. Like Remy, I don't know if you remember. There's a tower, and they've got to jump out of the tower, and they've got to abseil down the tower block. It's a huge staircase that you've got to run up and down. And Remy did. He must have. I don't know how many flights he must have done. 12, 14 times up and down, up and down, up and down. That it was absolute killer. The guy's a beast. But it also 1,000,000% positivity from him at all times in getting us recruits up there, and Rudy the same. He's just incredible, like charisma and jokes, just getting people through horrible times.
Yeah. I was looking through again some of his Instagram shots and reels, and I thought, if Bruce Lee ever had a secret kid, I didn't tell him that this is it.
Yeah.
Straight reincarnation of Bruce Lee.
100%. Rudy's Instagram is insane. His workout ethic, I swear to God, he got all us guys, all our shooting producer directors and APs. We'd do what did he call us? Our Swole Patrol, and he'd get us out every morning to do workouts with him, and he's a monster. Like, absolutely, it was brilliant. Wow. Yeah, absolutely brilliant fun, because it's just his natural charisma, just to get people motivated to do something that you didn't think was within you, to be honest. And he was doing that for us as crew, So it's easy to see why people, the recruits, then got to feel that as well, so well. It's such a shame you can't see, you don't see the sort of goings on behind the scenes before we start filming the recruits. It's almost like the DS put us through our paces, you know.
Wow, there's an Instagram reel for one of you to do.
Yeah, well, I've got enough videos of it. It's just, yeah, it's insane. It's brilliant. They were brilliant additions to the series for sure.
So we could call it Special Forces Who Does Wins in future, and invite a special force from Brazil or Israel or wherever you want to bring them to, and let's mix it up.
Yeah, mix it up. It'd be great, wouldn't it?
I've got to talk about the drone photography.
Oh yeah,
this is brilliant. I mean, I thought Maverick is being released next week in a few days, and I was thinking, look, I'm watching like aerial shots of, it's like an F-16 going through the mountains here. The drone photography is superb, but again, really stepping things up from previous seasons.
Yeah, I mean, it's the same two guys that sort of do the drone operating, Andy and Lek, and they are without doubt the best in the business. If you ask me, they were without doubt the best in the business. You know, they're incredible talents. I think it's Andy's brought more of the FPV into it this series. It started in Scotland, I think, doing a bit of FPV, but this series he really took it to another level. And Lek is just incredible at capturing all the other drone stuff. Yeah, they're amazing out there. They're just incredible. From that first the opening shot of the plane coming in through the desert, it's just like
I thought it was a Michael Bay production.
Isn't it? It just takes it to another level. This is not like a British Sunday night television series. You know, I don't know, whatever. No. It's not what you expect, is it? I don't think.
No.
So we're so fortunate to have them guys doing it. They literally do all the best. For my opinion, if they do all the best stuff on British TV, what you see in drone, and if they've got their names to it, you know, it's going to be good for sure.
And with that in mind, what can we expect for the next season?
Oh, well, I don't know. You know, that's a really interesting question. I don't know. I'm not even sure I'm going to be able to do it, because I don't know if I'm going to be still doing the surfing documentary, which I'd be really disappointed not to do it. But yeah, I don't know. I know that it's happening, and I know kind of where it's happening, but I don't know if I can tell you. I can't tell you. It's sworn to secrecy. Yeah. Other than I don't know if I could do it. I'd be devastated if I can't do it. I'd be absolutely devastated, because I love the series, and I love working for Minnow, and I just love the whole vibe of it. I love what it does for the characters who go on it and really do achieve stuff, regardless of how far they get in the selection process. You know, just getting on the show actually for a lot of people is like another level of achievement. You know, so I just hope I can do it.
Fingers crossed. I'm sure you will. And so the surfing documentary for Apple TV will be streaming when?
Well, this first series is streaming now. It's been streaming since the end of April. It's called Make or Break, and that's on Apple TV Plus. And then the second series, I imagine, then would be available from next. I think it's from next January, actually. I think. If you get a chance, have a look at that. It's different. I mean, like I said earlier, I knew nothing about surfing before I got into it, which is I think kind of useful in a way, because it gave me I think, like a lot of new people coming to surfing, I knew nothing, so I'm learning on every step of the way. You know, I'd love to hear what you think of it.
Well, I think if you're doing for surfing and tennis what we did for Drive to Survive, it's just going to be brilliant.
So I hope so. Yeah, it's interesting. It's a new world of. It's kind of a new world for me. You know, working for the more international broadcasters. They're not even broadcasters; they're video on demand sort of thing. It's a whole sort of new world for me. So your audience has literally opened up hugely. I used to think, you know, if we got 3 million people to watch a Channel 4 documentary that I'd worked on a Thursday night. That was really successful for me. I was really, really happy for that. And Benefit Street came out, and we got like 7 million people watching it on Channel 4, and that was wonderful. And in these now, we've got worldwide audiences to deal with now. It's even more sort of exciting and compelling to see how we get on. So yeah.
I think it should be awesome. And is there anything else that we can expect that you've been involved with later on this year?
Well, we've got SAS. We've got SAS. So Celebrity SAS will be coming out as well. So that's that one. We've got the tennis coming out, and we've got the new series of surf coming out. But you know, to be honest, since the pandemic, my production of everything sort of slowed down. So I've not really done anything other than the surfing thing all last year. And what I would tend to do is maybe do 3 separate films or series per year. But since that happened, and then going on to this sort of, you know, the video on demand thing, which is and filming over a much longer period, I've just got this series coming out. So yeah.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Now you're en route to where at the moment?
Where am I going to tomorrow? Indonesia.
Wow.
Yeah, Indonesia tomorrow. So we're going to a place called G-Land, which sounds way cooler than I am, or I should be going, or anything like that. It looks amazing. It looks so cool.
Wow. Okay. So
yeah.
I'm not going to keep you very long, but because I know you're exhausted. Thank you so much for doing this chat with me in the first place. Before I let you go, I just want to know some of your favorite TV shows or movies.
That's such a good question, isn't it? Oh wow, favorite TV shows, right? God, that's a big question. Oh my God, I love obviously I love television. Or
anything you've seen recently that blew your mind, sort of thing, that you'd highly recommend.
Okay, yeah. Oh God, this is the hardest question of the night, because there's a lot riding on this. Like, what should I? I can't say my own stuff.
What have you loved?
I know. But
we want to know. You know, what is Phil telling us to watch tomorrow?
What would I watch tomorrow?
Yeah.
You know what I've just watched on Apple TV Plus. It's called it's really really good documentary, and it's called what's it called? The Con. Oh my God, I can't remember what it's called. It's a documentary about a guy called Con, and he basically conned the American Social Security Authority out of like $500 million. Dollars, and that was a really interesting but quite well told documentary. I think it's called the Big Con, and that's a really good series. I've literally just watched it all back to back now on the flight over from Larnaca, and that's wonderful, really well made. Movies, what have I seen there? I've not seen a really good movie in a while now. Not seen a really, really good one in a while. What did I like? 1917 was good.
Yeah.
That was really good. That really took my breath away.
Very unique cinematography.
Yeah, very unique.
Amazing.
It's incredible, incredible. And you know, it's one of those. That's what good cinematography can do, and good sound can really do, is take you into. And this is why I want to see you as soon as possible to check out your home cinema, because you really need to immerse yourself in these stories that people are telling, and the more you can get in there, the more you feel like you're living their sort of idea, and I love that. So yeah, but 1970 was really good.
That what you just mentioned brings me to the case of, you know, one of the reasons for finding in the first place. For me, you know, I love to watch loads of TV documentaries and dramas on TV, and then obviously movies. But when something's incredibly well produced, well photographed, and when the audio is on point, it looks and sounds fabulous. And to me, SAS Hooters Wins in particular is just one of the best audiovisual experiences you can have at the moment. And if you watch it on an OLED display with a good set of sound system, it's absolutely brilliant. And that's why I wanted to congratulate you and the rest of the team for just entertaining us. But it's a brilliant production, you know. And
that's awesome.
Guys.
Thank you so much. And it really is, it is a big team, you know, and there's a lot of people working hard to make it look so glossy and finished, and especially in such difficult. What amazes me, and I am genuinely like amazed when I look around and all these people working so hard, is it's the environments we're doing it in.
Yeah.
You know, that's what's really astonishing. You know, the fact that we're in the desert with doing that stuff and running around with you know, I'm doing these feats with people is what's really, really cool about it. And all the camera people and all the directors that work on it, and all the people who work in the background that you don't see, obviously work so hard to make it happen, really.
Yeah, and that's the whole point, you know, of the Zebra Spotlight, is to find those people who are working behind the scenes. That brings the magic that we love to watch, and you know, to celebrate the work.
This latest series, I know I'm going on about it all the time, but Make or Break, if you ask me, the soundtrack on that is immense. The guys, honestly, the guys who've done the composition of the music, it's so good. Like you've got to, well, you won't have to, but I listen to it with the headphones on because it just sounds incredible. Like the amount of work and effort that they've put into to get it so on point it's awesome. And they do that. I mean, when everything goes back, when I leave a lot of projects after the shooting stage, I'm more of a shooting director, is what they say. So a lot of the stuff that I do gets packaged and sent back to London, and I never see it again, maybe for 6-7 months, and then it comes out and I get to watch it on my telephone with some headphones in. But no, when you get to relive it, experience it, it's so dramatic. It's on another level, isn't it? So yeah.
Phil, thank you so much for taking the time to chat to me this evening.
I'm sorry I've gone on so much, Atif.
No, you know what? There's more to chat on. I'm sure this isn't the last time we're going to chat. And of course, I'm going to invite you down for a demo to come and enjoy your work. You're a legend. System that should celebrate it. So I wish you a safe journey. Have a fantastic time in Indonesia.
Cheers, buddy.
And we really look forward to watching your work later on in the year.
Yeah, thank you so much, Atif. And thank you so much for taking such an interest in as well. It's you know, it's nice to talk to people who take a genuine interest in what you make, you know, and what you get up to. It's really nice.
Much appreciated. Much appreciated. Yeah. So thank you very much indeed.
Cheers, buddy.
Have a good night.
See you soon.
Bye-bye.
Good night to you. See you later. Bye.